Hi there, my name is Catherine Kelly in case you haven't seen any of my videos before. Today I'm going to review the NYX Ultimate Eyeshadow Palette, and this is the one in Cool Neutrals. They do have three other ones. They have Bright's Cool Neutrals, which is the one I'm going to review today, Smoky and Highlight, and then they also have a Warm Neutrals palette. I picked this up at the drugstore, which is pretty good. NYX is now pretty readily available at any drugstore, and it was $20, which for 16 shadows I think is a pretty good deal. I used it on my eyes for the first time today and I was pleasantly surprised. I swatched a couple of the shades on my hand before using it, but I was really blown away with the impact and pigment that the shadows provide when you use a brush. I picked this up because it's a little bit different than your standard neutral palette. So while you do have a lot of more neutral shades, they are a lot more cool toned obviously, and these days most palettes lean towards the warm side, so I thought this was a little bit different than any palette that I already have in my collection, so I decided to pick it up. Today I chose to stick with more of the neutral mauve shades on my eyes, so that's what I did today, and I actually really like how the look turned out. I am going to swatch each of the shades so that we can see what they all look like, but yeah, I was really impressed with how it performed on the eyes. So this is the first shade. It's like a white shimmery shade, and this could be used for all over the lid or your highlight underneath your brow bone or anything like that. Then there's more of a matte sort of cream tone shade, and it like shifts a little bit pink. Then you have just your straight cream shade, and that, as you can see, shows up fairly well on the skin. It doesn't like disappear in there or anything like that. And then the last light matte color is this one right here. It's a little bit more peachy, and that would be gorgeous all over the lid. So this is the first row, and as you can see, all of the shadows are really pigmented. Sometimes brands struggle a lot with these lighter shades, but as you can see, they're all really pigmented and they show up really well on the skin, and they also show up pretty similarly on the eyes, which is great as well. The only real problem, I guess, with this row is that the second shade and the fourth shade are a little bit similar. I feel like maybe if they just swapped one of those out for maybe like a more brown tone shade, that it might be a little bit better of an addition to the palette. Okay, moving on to the second row, that's where you get into your like lighter medium shades. So we'll go through this one now. The first one is this medium brown shade, and I used this to start off in my crease today as a transition color, and I actually really liked it. It's not like too dark, so it's a good one to start out with. Then we have this like peach shimmery shade, and this is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, like the reflection and sparkle that that shade gives is absolutely stunning. Then we have a pink with a similar finish to that other one, and this is absolutely stunning. I considered putting this all over my lid today, but I went for a matte shade instead, but this is gorgeous. And then the last one we have in this row is the shade I ended up putting on my lid, and as you can see, it's more of like a pinky purpley color. This is a little bit more interesting. I can't say that I have anything quite like this shade in my collection. In the pan, it looks a little bit more pink, but then when you put it on the eyes, it's a little bit more purple. So it is one of those like subtle pops of color, which is really nice. Okay, now moving on to the third row, we're going to get into a couple of more deeper shades. So the first one we have is this more gray shade. So as you can see, the pigmentation is pretty insane, and it's like a grayish purple. So this I also put a little bit of in my crease today, and this is actually stunning. Again, when you put it on the eyes, it does look a little bit more purple than gray. Okay, next we have more of this burgundy brown shade. And once we get into the darker colors, you can see the pigmentation really kicks up a notch. So this, again, I put a little bit on like the outer V of my eye today. And I really liked using this shade. There was like a lot of pigmentation, so I went in initially with a little bit too much on my brush, but it does blend out really nice. Okay, next we have one of the more interesting shades. This is just shimmer that has a little bit of blue shift. So it kind of has like a brown base with a little bit of a blue shift. So I think this is their take or a little bit similar to MAC's Blue Brown pigment. There's also a shade really similar to this in the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, but I find if you put a reddish burgundy shade like this in your crease, and then this blue duochrome shadow on your lid. It's really, really stunning. So I do have 1 or 2 shades like this in my collection, but if you don't, I would really recommend picking this up. And the last one we have in this row is this more like traditional brown shade. So this is kind of pretty neutral. It doesn't lean too warm or too cool, but this is just a classic that you'd want to have like in any palette. There's not a black in this palette, so it's really good to have this dark brown. Okay, now moving on to the last row, I will swatch them, but this is like more of the fun row. There's a blue, there's a super bright purple, which I'm excited to swatch. And then there's also this more glittery shade, and it's kind of the only one of this finish in the palette. So first we have this blue shade. And if you look at that, it's like sort of like a denim-y blue, and it's really stunning. This is not a really common blue that brands normally put in a palette, so I am really excited to put that on the lid or maybe even in the crease of a look. Okay, moving on to the more glittery shade. As you can see, the glitter really shines through on that. It's when you swatch it on your hand, it's more of like a black base, and then the reflex are like multicolored, which is really interesting. I kind of thought it was just like silver glitter, but when you look really closely, the reflex are like all different colors. Then we've got more of a dark purpley red shade. So we had the burgundy earlier, but this is just that but a little bit darker. I also have a little bit of this today on my outer V, and again, it's really good to have some dark shades like this or the dark brown that we looked at in the previous row in a palette, so you can get that depth. Okay, now the one I'm most excited for, it's this bright pop of purple. Oh wow, that's actually really stunning. Mid-tone purples like this, sometimes they can be a little bit patchy, but as you can see, it was really pigmented and went on really smoothly. This would be really great for a pop of color underneath the lower lash line, but I feel like it would also blend out really well in the crease if you were to do it like that. So that's actually a really, really pretty shade. I really like that. Can't wait to use it. So yeah, as you can probably tell, the quality of this palette is really great. Sometimes it can be a huge hit or miss at the drugstore with eyeshadow palettes, especially with like pigmentation and blending ability. But even after putting this on my eyes, I am really, really impressed with the quality. Again, this does come in some other shade options, so if this shade range isn't really your thing, there are like some warmer neutrals, more smokier shades, and I'm actually gonna get the Brights one. I tried this one out because it's a little bit more neutral and everyday, but for $20 for 16 shades, I think I am gonna go ahead and get the Bright one. I don't use bright eyeshadows a whole lot, but it will be nice to have in my collection, especially for a really good price like this. Another thing I did want to mention, actually, today for my highlight, I mixed this top white shimmery shade right here with this more peachy shimmery shade in the second row, and I'll go ahead and swatch it for you. But it actually gave a really nice highlight. I put it on my cheekbones as well as down the center of my nose. And I really liked it. I wouldn't say that I would use it every day, but it was nice, like if you're just using the palette or traveling or something like that and that's all you have with you, you can most certainly use those shades as highlight shades. So again, yeah, I would really recommend checking out one of the NYX Ultimate Eyeshadow Palettes. They are really great and a really great bang for your buck at the drugstore. I do really hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Sunday and Wednesday. I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!